Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 29 of Cage Side Convos. I am Rick Huntsman.
And this is Quince.
And we're coming to you guys live, as always, from American Top Team right here in Watertown.
Absolutely. And this morning, we're actually going to be talking about comfort zones. Why they exist, how they benefit us on a day-to-day, and why there comes a point in time in which we need to break out of those comfort zones. And of course, I think comfort zones from a very evolutionary standpoint exist for our safety and our survival, really. These comfort zones are a place in which they're low stress environments. They're places in which we can work to build routine, and that routine brings consistency. And all of those sort of things help to provide a foundation in which we can, which is a great starting point to grow. But the question is, how do we grow? Can we grow in these comfort zones per se? Honestly, I think in the comfort zone, we can take steps to sharpen our skills, hone our skills. We have our time to learn things, but I think there comes a certain point in which the things that are learned and known have to be applied. And to apply these things, we have to be outside of our comfort zone. We have to take what is known and apply it to the unknown, to see how those skills actually pan out. You might find once you get out there in the world that things that you were working on either don't help you like you need, or you might be able to find ways to redefine them or refine them so you can apply them better.
Sure. Yeah, taking something that's purely theoretical and making it practical. And I think a lot of times when we put ourselves in a situation where we have to pressure test something that we thought we've been working on, or we have been working on. When you go to apply that in a real situation, there's always a chance that we fail. Sure. And failure, it's gonna hurt our ego. Sometimes we conceptualize it as, okay, if I fail, if this doesn't work like I thought it would, then I just wasted however much time went into developing this thought or this practice, or thinking this is gonna be a beneficial habit. And it's uncomfortable being wrong, because like you touched on with the as far as like an evolutionary response to it, failure typically means death.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how, as a species, we're kind of programmed. 30,000 years ago, maybe that would have been the case. Someone comes up and says, I made this new tool, I put a rock on the end of a stick and I'm going to go kill this animal, and
right.
if you fail, then you die.
That's it.
And that's it. Yeah.
That's
so sometimes pressure testing our theories or our thoughts or our opinions and stuff, it's we still have that evolutionary response of, well, if I fail, then I die.
Yeah.
But if I stay in this comfort zone, then I'm safe. So
right.
Comfort and safety have become a synonym.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that juxtaposition of what's theoretical needs to become practical.
Sure.
And that's how you find out. But right back to failure. I just doing some research, I came across the cool acronym, first attempt in learning.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I like that. I think that's a cool way to think about failure. All part of the learning process. Right. But of course, certainly back in the days when we would hide out in caves, they probably weren't breaking it down into acronyms, because you're right. Your first attempt is your last attempt sometimes.
Sure. But that, so as far as, again, sticking with the evolution, the goal is to propagate the species. We want to have kids, see them grow up, and from an evolutionary standpoint, that's our job, is to just keep the species alive, right? So you find out what works and you stick to it.
Yep.
Well, we've gotten to the point now where it's pretty easy to stay alive. It's pretty easy to just be comfortable,
right.
And if our goal is we just want the species to stay alive. Well, we're doing that already. There's 7 billion people. We're just fine as far as the numbers go.
Right.
You know, then being comfortable all the time becomes crippling.
Sure.
And you see this a lot. You see this a lot in people with like anxiety and depression and stuff like that. People who become shut-ins. You know, you meet somebody and when you first meet them, you're 19, 20 years old, and they say, well, I don't want to come out tonight because I'm feeling anxious. I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay in my comfort zone. I'm going to stay where I'm safe. And that happens once in a while and stuff. But you fast forward, 10 years later, and I know people now that just don't leave their house.
Yeah.
They go to work and then they go home and then they never ever go out because that's been working for them and they're safe, and that's all they have to do is just stay there, and then they've crippled themselves to the point where they're not growing at all.
Absolutely.
And if we did that as a society, all these amenities that have provided us all this comfort, electricity and heat, and things that we enjoy, infrastructure and stuff every single day, at some point somebody went outside of their comfort zone to figure this out.
Right.
And the first try at indoor plumbing was probably catastrophic. It was probably a lot of water damage in the house, and they said, okay, well, this is stupid, but kind of like you said, it was the first attempt, and you have to figure out, okay, now that we're taking this theory and we're applying it in practice, what adjustments have to be made.
Yeah.
And sometimes making adjustments is very, very uncomfortable. But ultimately, if you're convicted that it's going to lead to progress and that it's going to be better for not only yourself but for everybody, you stick to that. You keep pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone and keep learning. You be willing to adapt and be willing to grow.
Absolutely. And I think moving from comfort to discomfort back to comfort, and I think moves in intervals. Naturally moves in intervals. You're in your comfort zone. You work at your craft. Now it's time to take that craft on the road or make yourself vulnerable. Bring it out to the public, or like we were talking about a little bit earlier. Sometimes you want a more controlled environment in which to kind of practice, put your theoretical to work, because comfort zone is very much so controlled. As far as your thoughts, as far as the safe place that you built around. And for me, I guess as an artist, I thrive off, I have learned to thrive off being uncomfortable, putting myself in positions and situations in which had it be for any other reason outside of art or something created, I wouldn't know what to do. And I certainly wouldn't be there. So sometimes, if I've got a new verse or a new song that I want to kind of put out in the world, before I go running straight to the radio, I might hop on the phone or connect with one of my other fellow artist friends who understand what it's like to go through that process, have something that might be new, that might leave you vulnerable, and to be able to show that to someone. Because you could get some solid feedback, but you could get genuine feedback from someone who is on the same level,
right?
And in that sense, that's a controlled environment situation in which you can still take little steps to get out of that comfort zone of yours.
Right. Yeah. So it's that comfortable environment where we can be uncomfortable.
Yes.
And for me, that's the gym. And you talk about taking a theory and putting it into practice. So you do every single day when you're in training, especially coming out on Friday night, you're sparring, you have training partners that you trust. So all week I'll think, okay, well, what if I move a certain way, if I feint the jab like this, maybe I can elicit them to draw on like this, or if I watch a new technique, whether it be for jiu-jitsu or for boxing, for kickboxing, right? And I'll say, okay, well, this is the theory behind this. You throw your two hands, they're gonna counter like this, probably, right? Well, you have to see, okay, well, I know the theory that if I do this, they're gonna react in a certain way. What's the timing of it?
Right.
How much of a guarantee is it that they're gonna react this way, And until you get to where you try to put that in practice, you don't know the ins and outs. You don't know if it's actually gonna work.
Yep.
So you come in and you pick a training partner that you trust, because you're going to miss your timing the first time. You're going to fail the first time you try it. You're going to get caught. You're going to get hit. But you have to be doing this with a partner that isn't going to rip your head off.
Right.
You know, if I drop my hand when I pull that punch back, I drop my hand and I get caught, my partner's not going to throw that hook as hard as they can and try to knock me out.
Right.
You know, so it's important. And if I do get hit, if I do get hurt, then I can stop it and say, all right, man, you just rocked my shit. I need to take some time off, and then it's done. So there's still the safety in the environment that I need to be uncomfortable without having it be catastrophic.
Sure.
You know, because like you said, you don't go straight to the radio with your new verse. I'm not going to go straight into the cage with, you know, this brand new technique that I just whipped up watching YouTube and thinking, you know.
Sure.
So you have to have somewhere that you can feel comfortable pressure testing, and you have to feel people, or have people that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And the people that, if you make a mistake or if you make an error or if it's not up to snuff or if it's a failed experiment, they're not going to just shit on you and say you suck, quit.
Right.
You know, they're not going to kill you metaphorically or literally.
And two or three times in that you said the word trust. Sure. You know, working with people that you trust is always a huge plus. You know, because I don't know if you guys know how the internet gets sometimes, but you know, you go to say Twitter and you put your music out there and you start getting responses back from people who don't know you. And that you don't know, complete strangers that have no real connection outside of what they just heard, and giving their feedback on it. And sometimes it's just to rip you apart, you know, just to break you down. And if, you know, that sort of stuff is not coming from people that you trust or know, it could stop you, you know, all the negativity could stop you from moving forward or putting yourself out there again. You know, just like if you take that style out to the streets just to fight anybody and it doesn't work for you, you get your ass kicked enough or bad enough, you're probably not going to want to do it anymore.
Absolutely.
So, you know, small steps are a great way to continue forward progress.
Yeah. One place, we kind of chatted about this earlier, but one place I really like to emphasize this notion of being uncomfortable in a safe environment is I like to do women's self-defense seminars or you know, little classes and stuff like that. And one of the first things I tell the women, because you never know why somebody's there. You never know, especially now. Like there could be a rape victim with you. There could be a domestic violence victim with you. There could be someone who lost a family member or, you know, a friend or something to one of these instances. You know, somebody that could have been a victim of an assault. And you never know what these people are going through, what experiences they've had. And the first thing I tell them is you know, please, I want you all to trust that you're here with your friends, you're with people you know, and you're here with people that are going to keep you safe, regardless of what we do. Right. You know, especially if we're dealing with choke defense. You know, someone's got their hands around your throat. A lot of people have been in that situation, especially a lot of women. It's a very, very scary situation to be in. Or dealing with someone being on top of you, punching you, hitting you, trying to hold you down, someone that you know wants to hurt you. You know, a lot of people have been through this situation, or a lot of people are terrified of the situation, and rightfully so.
Right.
But if you want to be fully prepared with it, you have to endure it in a simulated and safe environment. You know, and the first time you do it, you're not going to have someone just sit on you and start punching you in the face.
Right.
You know, you build it in steps. You always build your drills in a very slow and controlled way. You know what your partner is going to do, and you know that at any time you can stop.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest things I tell people, like I said, especially in the women's seminars, is if you feel uncomfortable at any time, you can stop. We do not have to do this. You can sit, you can watch, you can address me, we can do it in a smaller setting, we can go over this, but trying to make sure that people understand that, yes, you're going to feel uncomfortable, you're going to feel a little unsafe, but you have to have that knowledge that ultimately you are safe and you're working with people that you trust and people that have your best interests in mind, so you can expand these comfort zones.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. You know, because, you know, once you are expanding in any form, this is the point in which your brain and your reactions start adapting to the unknown. And these coping mechanisms are things that can't be gained in the comfort zone. You know, I could go over a verse as many times as I want to, but sooner or later you're gonna be you got to do that verse in front of a couple hundred people, and how do you react? Is you maybe the first couple times, first few times, your whole body might shut down.
Yeah.
You know, you might just draw a blank. You know, they call it choking. You know, and that happens for a psychological reason. You know, because oftentimes you don't have the experience. You don't put yourself in that situation enough, or maybe the first time that it happened, you weren't with people that you trusted, and you had a reaction that was so bad, you almost have, you know, PTSD like responses to it now.
Right.
You know, certainly there are different levels to that.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah. Not to downplay the significance of what PTSD actually is.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure. But you know, so it's when it comes down to it, the ability to learn for the mind to be malleable and learn to adapt to the unknown, and kind of, like we say a bunch of times, embrace that chaos,
Sure.
embrace that unknown, is one of the biggest advantages to getting yourself outside that comfort zone.
One thing I've been doing a lot is I tell myself I'm not going to die. Mm-hmm. Specifically when I'm challenging my comfort zones, one thing I like to do is I've been starting to embrace cold exposure therapy, and studying some of Wim Hof, the Iceman dude. That's for any of you who don't know who Wim Hof is. He's set all kinds of world records for cold endurance exercises. He swam under an iceberg. He hiked like halfway up Mount Everest or something in just shorts.
Only halfway?
Yeah. Only. I think that's what I can't remember the exact if he, you know, how far up the mountain he made it, but he was just wearing a pair of shorts, and that was it. You know, so the dude does all kinds of crazy stuff, very specifically with, you know, in cold weather. Mm-hmm. But he's learned how to make his body adapt to that. So he just physically doesn't get cold. It's not that he's just tough. He's learned how to manipulate his body in such a way that his body will stay warm. And one of the things that he says is that comfort is a weakness. And so as I've been exploring the cold exposure therapy and stuff and trying to understand exactly what comfort is, comfort, you know, again, we talked about earlier, is synonymous with safety in our minds. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a little uncomfortable, my body's telling me, you better do something about this because you're going to die. Right. So if you're cold for too long, you die. So I tell myself, you know, okay, well, comfort is my body overreacting to the stimulus. Mm-hmm. It's only 20 degrees outside. I'm probably not going to die. My body is seeking comfort because my body wants to be weak, and that's the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. So when I put myself in an uncomfortable situation, whether it's taking a cold shower, whether it's going outside without shoes on, when it's, you know, when there's ice on the ground and stuff, I remind myself that, okay, I'm not going to die. At any time, I can go back inside. Mm-hmm. And understanding that constantly seeking comfort leads to crippling ourselves, leads to weakness, mm-hmm. you know?
And certainly mediocrity.
Yeah.
You know, to be mediocre, to not have any progression whatsoever. And which oftentimes it's doing nothing doesn't really keep you in one place. You would think that doing nothing, keeps your little balance suspended right here. That's not true. I think if you know, when doing nothing, you can only go backwards. You have to work to even stay in place. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like a treadmill. You know, you stop moving on a treadmill, you're going back.
Or like when you're swimming. Yeah. You don't just tread water by staying still. Yeah. You know.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we maybe touched on this a little bit before, but to be inactive, I think the truth is, the body and the mind need a little bit of stress. You know, they need that stimuli. I think people that are inactive have a negative, very that the lack of stress actually leads to depression. Yeah. And like you said, people get in these funks or these cycles and pick up these bad habits, and they forget how to interact, how to socialize, how to get out in the world and apply themselves. And all these things that you don't use, you lose eventually.
Right, and that's, so that's kind of the social aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it. But one of the easiest ways to see the manifestation of comfort is in our physique. And not obviously everybody knows, well, if you just sit still, you eat a ton of food, you're going to gain weight, right? But even our posture, right? Think about what's the most, and I'm sitting here, I'm talking on both sides of my mouth right now. I'm sitting here kind of, slouched back against the cage because this is a comfortable position to sit in. But if I stayed in this comfortable position all day, eventually my body's going to adhere to that comfortable posture.
Right.
You see people, as people get older, they go, see people that are 18, 20 years old, they stand up nice and tall. By the time they're 50, 60, 70, they're starting to hunch over because they've sought a life of constant comfort.
Sure.
Path of least resistance is letting our muscles react. It's not actively working on posturing, which is something I found that I've needed to do. Because as soon as I posture up, I feel all the muscles in the front of my chest and my neck, everything's tight.
Sure.
Just standing up straight stretches me out.
Right.
That's a sign that I've been very complacent in seeking comfort with something as simple as posture.
Yeah.
And I'm not actively working on it, so I'm regressing, like you said.
And even just slight changes in awareness like that, add things like, that you even feel more confident walking around like that.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of neat. But I think back to stresses and stressors, I think it comes down to the fact that there are good stressors and there are bad stressors.
Right.
Good stresses. So stresses is evolutionary, it's biological. It's an innate warning system that the body has, and when the body's under stress and the mind is under stress, it lets out all these chemicals that allows us to react to the situation. Whether that's that fight or flight response. They might have added one. I don't know. It's 2020. Freeze.
Fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah, right. I don't
Joke,
know.
Right?
That ever helped? Yeah, right. But with the chemicals that get put out by the brain, they help us to adapt quicker, move quicker, think quicker, and those are the sort of things that if we are inactive, if we don't put ourselves in situations of, and I'm not saying overwhelming stress, that's bad stress, but there's a good balance of acute stress. There's a right amount of stress in which your body and the mind can circulate these chemicals that help you adapt to and cope to the situation.
Well, think about, even muscular endurance, so the first time you ran was probably pretty uncomfortable. I know every year the first time I hit the pavement, and I don't run a ton, and the first time I get on the pavement, even 2 miles, my knees ache, my body hurts. Feels like my cardio is not there. I mean, I do some manner of cardiovascular training almost every single day, but I get out and run, and it's different. It's a new stressor on my body. But 3-4 weeks into it, you're fine. But you have to embrace that stress. The most comfortable thing to do is stop. You feel your heart beating, you're breathing hard, you're sweating, you're uncomfortable. The easiest thing to do is stop.
Right.
But if you don't allow your body to endure that stress, there's never going to be that adaptation response. You never get better, And the more you put yourself through uncomfortable situations, the more you adapt to it. And then you find that, now boxing is an easy one. The first time you sparred, that was probably wicked stressful.
Sure.
And every single time somebody threw a punch, you're reacting to it. You're
tensed up.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
breathing.
Exhausted. Yeah. Now, you and I, like, whenever we do our little sparring rounds and stuff, everything's, nice and easy, smooth. We know that if we mess up, we're not going to get hurt. We understand the safety in the environment. We're comfortable being uncomfortable. You get hit a couple of times and you're like, whatever, I don't give a shit. Because your body is adapted to that.
Sure.
So the more you go through these stressors, the more your body adapts. It becomes a natural response. It becomes a comfortable response.
Yes.
Then you just got to start doing some crazy shit to get uncomfortable.
Right. Building a little bit more and more. So just this past Tuesday, I was working with a couple different artists, and one of them just hadn't worked in a while. They hadn't picked up their instrument in a year, if not longer, and we spent some time talking about it, and kind of the apprehension that we had getting back together and feeling like we were forced to, come up with something new, and it had been so long that now we were out of our comfort zone. And we could have talked about it all day long, all morning long. But instead, we took what we knew, we took what we did in our comfort zones, our routines, and we applied it. And we just did it. We stopped talking about it and we just did it. And before we knew it, we adapted to the situation and came together with something unplanned that I think just sounds phenomenal. Something that we never would have come across. It didn't cross our mind, and we never would have come across had we not tried.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things that that you aren't aware of until you're in that position. The fact that just getting outside your comfort zone, there are opportunities that await and doors that will open for you that you didn't even plan on, that you didn't foresee. And that's just an additional added benefit.
Yeah. I think one thing in that is that because you both have patterns of challenging your comfort zones, and you both have habits of get uncomfortable, become comfortable, get uncomfortable, become comfortable. And what that does is anytime we have a process like this in place, something that even if we don't know exactly how it's going to manifest, we know the result is going to be something positive and we're going to get better in one way or another. You start building confidence. And what that confidence does is forces you to, next time you encounter or you're faced with an uncomfortable or an unknown situation, through this constant trial and error and seeing positive results and understanding that we can adapt and understanding that we're not going to die if this fails, when you're faced with that unknown, you have the confidence to trust in that process.
Yes. That
confidence to say, okay, well, if I just step outside of my comfort zone, something positive will come of this in some way. And what I've found meditating on this, like the confidence from being outside of your comfort zone, I found with when I engage with someone who I view as a superior, right? So coaches or mentors, like very specifically in the gym, if I feel like I should be challenging something that they're doing, or if I should have a conversation with them, and it can be anything, it can be something as simple as, well, why did you present this technique in this way? For a long time, I always felt like it was almost disrespectful to approach my professor, my sensei, or my instructor, or my coach, because I didn't want to appear combative, And so I would always shy away from it because it was very uncomfortable for me. I didn't want to appear that I was being disrespectful.
Right.
Well, now that I'm in a place in my life where I'm just constantly challenging my comfort zones, what I did is I said to myself, okay, well, what's my reasoning for tabling this issue? Am I being an asshole? Am I being snarky or snide about it? Or do I feel morally compelled to address this issue, in whatever, is it the right thing to do? And if I say, yes, it is the right thing to do, then I know confidently stepping outside of my comfort zone, something productive will come from this. Even if I get shut down, even if it causes a rift, even if I end up in, in an altercation, whatever, disagreement or whatever, I know that worst case scenario, I've stood my ground, or at least, acted in the way that I felt morally compelled to act. And the craziest shit about it is every single time I've ever approached someone that's in that role, it's been an incredibly positive engagement.
Sure.
They're very receptive to the question or the comment or the discussion that I've tabled. I've never had a negative consequence from any of them.
Sure.
But we have it built up so much in our mind that it's an uncomfortable situation.
Right.
And a lot of times, if you look at it in the work world, you go to your boss and say, this, you're treating your employees shitty, or this is a stupid way to do it, or this is what I think should be done. As long as you come to it from a morally sound and confident place, I got fired from Great Lakes Cheese Plant for approaching my superiors in maybe not the best way, but
those little cartoons.
Yeah. So for the sake of clarity, I drew political cartoons and I made a bunch of copies of them and I put them in everybody's locker, and the management didn't like that. But you know, I mean, that was a little bit snide, but I felt very morally compelled to bring it to the table that the employees were very unhappy and stuff. And yeah, but again, there's nothing negative. Like, they ended up firing me, and nobody told me I was fired until I got to work that night, you know, and they did some shitty stuff. And but ultimately what ended up coming of that is I found myself in a situation where I could commit 100% of my time to the gym. Right. And, you know, here it is a few years later, now I'm working full-time at American Top Team, and we're doing this, and life is just overall amazing. So again, nothing but positive interactions from stepping outside of that comfort zone. You know?
Absolutely. And
what up, Alex? Thanks for jumping in, brother.
What up, dude? You know, and you mentioned something that I think is important. Is before you take that step, I mean, you want to imagine all outcomes, and one of those outcomes is the fact that you might fail.
Sure.
But you might fail, but will you die? Did you die? You know, most likely not. Most likely not. You know, I'm sure when you were putting those cartoons in everyone's lockers, you were like, shit, I might get fired for this. You know, wait, did that cross your mind? You didn't even care, you know? So, but, and you did, but did you die? No. Shit actually got better from there. And, you know, and I like how you mentioned when you were, and that sort of stuff gave you the confidence to approach any situation in which you genuinely felt something. You know, genuinely, you know, had a thought pertaining to, and that gave you confidence to now share it. In one form or another, and always get positive feedback. And you're talking about some of the instructors that you have while sharing these genuine concerns or having these questions. And if they're there for those same reasons, why would they not be open to it?
Exactly.
Why would they not?
Yeah, exactly. And that, you know, that was an exercise I did with myself too, is because I thought, because obviously I'm in an instructor role, and a lot of students refer to me as coach, and I always want to be approachable. If a student has a question, and I don't care what they have a question about, if they think I'm doing something poorly, or if I could be presenting things better, or if I'm not giving them, you know, whatever they're invested here, if they don't feel like they're getting their money or their time's worth or their effort's worth, right? If they're unhappy with the situation, I want them to approach me. And so I try to roll a little role reversal. And I thought, okay, well, logically, because I feel like I'm here for the right reasons, if they approach me about something, I'd be willing to have the conversation.
Sure.
And I have to make myself believe that about my instructors and my mentors, you know, because I look up to these men and women, and I know that, okay, well, if they are who I think they are, this should be fine. But still, you know, you don't know. You don't know until you do it. Yeah. You know?
It's true. And, you know, and you were telling that whole story about how it gives you more confidence to approach it again. You know, and I was just having, you know, thoughts of the ocean. You know, it's been a minute, but I still remember the ocean. And as the waves come down and they crash on the sand, and you know, it smooths some of that sand away. So, you know, after the crash, there's still that little bit of water is able to slide through. And with every crash, it smooths the sand further and further, so that water is able to go out a little bit further each time.
Sure.
You know? Just as far as metaphors go.
Yeah.
I'm an artist, bro. What do you want?
But not to brag or nothing, but I'm super creative and introspective.
But, you know, using that, adapting to that and becoming more resilient smooths that path for you for that second and third attempt. And, you know, and you can reach further and further every time.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to build off of that too, because even the act of the wave crashing into the shore is a very tumultuous thing. It's a very aggressive thing, but the aftermath of it is beautiful, and the aftermath of it is more progress, you know. So I like that a lot, man. I'm gonna steal that.
Oh, do you like it now?
I liked it when you first.
See, this is how this shit works. This is why you don't get any credit to your dad.
I'm gonna delete this video. I'm gonna delete this video, and I'm gonna tell people I made it.
It's so good, man.
I think it's important to always ask yourself, you know, why? Why do I feel compelled to this?
Yes.
What do I want the end result to be? What's my goal? So something I was thinking about is, for me, I play a little guitar. You know, I have a little acoustic guitar at the house. I like playing, and it's just for me. I don't, you know, have any dreams of making it big, but something I would like to do eventually at one point is play a song in front of a crowd. You know, maybe one night when my band's playing out at the bar, I grab the guitar and sing, you know. And for me, that is absolutely terrifying to think about.
Sure.
But what I've been doing is, so I always play guitar, and when I'm by myself, I'll sing a lot, and I'll try to practice, get used to the timing and stuff. And then I would start playing for maybe one other individual, somebody very close to me, somebody that I trusted, and someone that's going to validate my efforts,
Sure.
right? So kind of going back to the validation is a blessing before it becomes a burden, you know? So initially establishing that confidence is important.
Yep.
And now I've gotten to the point where, like when we're hanging out, we're having a little party or something, or like bonfire or whatever, and we're drinking some beers, and I'll play the guitar, and then I'll sing for a group of like 4 or 5 friends, and we'll just mess around, you know. And I'm very realistic with myself. I'm not a great singer. It's not going to sound great, you know. But the fact that I've been able to continually press my comfort zones and stuff, and now I'm very comfortable doing it because I'm in a comfortable environment. And if I suck at singing, nobody cares because we're doing it to have fun, you know. And if I ever want to get to the point where I can actually perform a song in front of a group of people that I don't know, like I have to continue to stretch my comfort zone. You know, and maybe it's a goal I won't ever get. You know, maybe I won't go through all the iterations necessary and stretch that comfort zone to that point. But even if I don't get to that goal right now where I'm at, just being comfortable, grabbing a guitar and singing with my friends, just goofing off and stuff is huge, and it's fun, and it's brought a lot of enrichment and a lot of enjoyment to my life. But you know, it took a while, and like I said, I don't care if I'm ever good at it. It's fun and it's enjoyable, and it's a small way that I've been able to challenge and push that comfort zone.
Absolutely.
You know, and found a lot of enjoyment in life with it.
I like you know, that you mentioned the fact that you have to, because I think one of the steps to breaking out of that comfort zone is acceptance. Is questioning yourself why you need to grow. You know, what's the opportunity there? What are the goals set? Or what's just the opposite? What's going to happen if you don't grow, if you stagnate? So it's accepting the situation and position you're in, and accepting what needs to be done, and then finding out how to do that.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's it exactly. Finding out how to do it. What's your goal? What are the steps? Do I sit in? It's never stay in your comfort zone. It's never stay still.
No.
If you have a goal, the answer is never sit where you are. You know.
Because like we said before, that's just moving backwards. That's just moving backwards. You know, so it's accepting the situation and understanding what it is that you need to do, and also I think, and we mentioned a couple times, but starting with these small steps. Small steps get you there. It doesn't matter how big the steps that you take. The main point is the fact that you can't skip that part of the process. You know, I find I see often a lot of people who might find success when they put their songs on, say SoundCloud or something like that, and they'll get all these views. And they're recording these songs right at their house. They've never done a show, but now somebody plucks them and puts them in a situation in which they're in front of all these people and they have no idea how to respond. You know, that's a lot of attention, that's a lot of energy, and so they can't really they can't perform at the same level in which they were first heard or received. You know, so they kind of get stuck in that. You know, they kind of tailspin before they even start. So, you know, even small steps, you know, playing by yourself, you know, in your comfort zone, and then expanding your comfort zone a little bit to allow other people in there to share it with them. You know, small group, larger group, and and so it goes. But the thing is, you can't skip these steps.
Well, and we talk a lot about vulnerability, and it's something we've been talking about this whole time, but never actually labeled it as such. You know, because when you get outside your comfort zone, all of a sudden you're vulnerable because you don't know how to protect yourself. So we can use the boxing metaphor again. If you're trying something new, you don't know necessarily. You can plan for as much as you know, but you don't know everything. You don't know every angle the attacks could possibly come at. You know, you don't know exactly where you're exposed. You feel very vulnerable because you don't know how to completely protect yourself there. And then once you do, you start trying these different movements, these different techniques. You start getting picked off here and here and here. You start learning how to protect yourself, and then all of a sudden then you're comfortable there again because you're safe again. And it's important to be vulnerable. It's important to understand that you don't know everything that's going to happen, right? It's fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And once you start understanding it, because you don't, like you said, you get on stage in front of 1,000 people for the first time.
Wow.
Maybe you're gonna get booed.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe that's something that's never happened before. You play in front of play a little bar. You play in front of 20 people, 40 people. Everybody's drunk. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody loves every single thing you do.
Yep.
You get in front of a bigger crowd. Something goes wrong, and you get booed. You didn't know that could happen, right? Or maybe you did, but you didn't expect it. And then that's pretty fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You guys suck. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that. My vulnerability hurts.
Right. How do you know how to maintain, that same energy you need, or cope with that negative feedback, and keep moving forward and not let it just, have everything come crashing down. But that's just has to do with learning to adapt.
Sure.
In the first place.
Sure.
But so like we said, comfort zones are necessary, a necessary starting point, and necessary for foundation in which to grow. But I came across a really good quote in which she said that life really doesn't, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So that comfort is survival, but it's not thriving. It's not really living.
Sure.
It's just maintaining, and that's rather mediocre.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I said, people are in different situations in which maintaining is what they need to do. Maybe they need to maintain that home for their kids to be raised. And they're doing it for other reasons, maintaining this job, for that sense of security. But you find that you really feel like you are living life once you get outside of that, comfort zone and apply the things that you know.
Absolutely, man. And one of the places to jump back onto that vulnerability, something that I used to feel really uncomfortable with was expressing how I felt to my friends, and telling my friends exactly what they mean to me, exactly their importance in my life, exactly the impact that they've had on me. And when I first started really doing that, actually, I can thank my brother John for that. He's probably one of the most lovingest dudes, one of the guys who's going to say I love you to every single one of his friends. And that kind of encouraged me to stretch my comfort zone a little bit. And now, a few years after I really started trying to do that, now I have these conversations with my friends all the time, and it's become normal. And expressing that gratitude to people every single day, man, it's one of the most enriching parts of my life.
Yeah.
So it's not like, kind of to your point, if you're at home and your comfort zone is maintaining a safe home for your wife and your kids and your family, it's very important and it's very necessary. But there are ways that you can stretch your comfort zone and still find enrichment in your life.
Yeah.
Through interactions like emotional vulnerability, expressing gratitude and stuff to people. And one of the things, between watching my brother do this all the time and then going to funerals and hearing people say good, kind things about people after they're dead, I don't want to wait. And if you want to prevent that, if you don't want to be the one standing up there talking about how great a person was and saying shit like, man, I wish I would have told them how I felt while they were here. If you want to prevent that regret, stretching that comfort zone now, and being able to bring that level of enrichment to your life is one of the most critical things and one of the most enriching things that I've been able to do through stretching my comfort zones. And it makes a difference.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. It's an awesome point to make. There's a good quote. I don't remember who it was by, but they say, too often nobody gets the flowers when they can still smell them.
Sure. Sure.
And to appreciate that.
Sure.
Just the human connection. Because once again, I feel like all of our topics are, based off of that.
Yeah.
Self connection and human connection.
Absolutely.
and just to be able to expand that group of people in which you can trust, and which do trust you. So and then the whole, then the cycle starts all over again. Once you become comfortable with that, expanded situation, you got to go through it all over again. But now, you're more comfortable and confident with the steps, and that you can trust the process. It just makes things easier moving forward.
Absolutely. Worst case scenario, you die, and you probably won't die from most of this.
And then you still get flowers. So it's,
right, exactly.
Perfect.
Awesome, man.
So thank you guys for joining us. Again, this was episode 29. 29 weeks into it, man. Certainly something that started out of my comfort zone. I don't know about you, but
yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll catch you next Tuesday. This time, promise.
Be back on track next week for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see you then.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, guys.